Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Cheat Code Fantasy Sports Podcast. Zach Green here with Cody Harvey. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on this video and share with your friends as we talk about last week's tournament and preview this week's. A little bit about us is we offer data-driven picks and plays with articles, cheat sheets, podcasts, player pools, but we don't give you lineups and say you need to play these lineups. You guys still make your own based on our advice. And we try to be as transparent as possible. We try to get everything out in a timely manner as well. All of our PGA stuff will be posted by the end of Tuesday night, depending on when you're watching this. And you can follow us on Twitter at CheatCodeFS, at the Cody Harvey, or at OkiCapvote14. And then be sure to join our Slack in the link below. It's where we're going to have a lot of good information. You know, we record these on Tuesday afternoon, so a lot of stuff can change just from Tuesday to Wednesday night. So make sure you're in our Slack for the latest information, especially for tiers. Normally we do tiers in the podcast, but they didn't have the contest released yet. They had the contest, but the player pool's not released yet. So there was nothing we could give you for that. But before we get into this week, let's recap last week's crazy tournament at the Memorial, which was just brutal, and only 7 golfers in the entire field for DraftKings scored over 80 DraftKings points. So let's go ahead and recap our cash plays. Cody, who would you have?
So thanks, Zach. So my first cash play was Patrick Cantlay. So he finished with 60.5 DK points, 6.2 times value. So he was pretty well owned in the Millie Maker at 26% and about 48% in the $25 double up. Not great for his price, was looking really good after round 3 and then just succumbed to the carnage that was the final round. So not great for his price. Would have liked to get more value there, but definitely helped having him in the lineups with the way scoring ended up. It was just absolutely brutal, like Zach said. Second was Abraham Answer. So Answer finished with 44 DK points, good for 5.2 times the value. Again, highly owned in GPPs, 22% in the Millie Maker, 38% in the $25 double up. Made the cut, but like Cantlay, just didn't do enough to get value. And then my third cash play was Paul Casey. Ended up with 28 DK points, 3.5 times value. Missed the cut really thanks to one hole, taking an 8 on the par 3 12th in the final round. 38% to the Millie Maker, 28% to the $25 double up. And yeah, missed the cut on the number, and pretty disappointing, but there was so much carnage last week. Didn't really anticipate the course playing like a US Open type course, but live and learn and move on to next week. But before we do that, so how did your cash plays go last week, Zach?
Yeah, my cash plays were pretty much ones to forget as well. But honestly, with my cash lineups, if I'm going to lose, I'd rather know I'm done on Thursday or Friday than have to wait around and get like 10 points away on Sunday and not make it. Anyways, Patrick Cantlay, you already mentioned him, so I won't repeat everything. Then the next one was Kevin Streelman. He had 45.5 DraftKings points, 6x value, 14% in the Millie, and 23% in the $25 double ups. Not that great. I mean, he made the cut, but then Saturday and Sunday, he just went backwards both days, especially Sunday. I think he shot +5 or 6 on Sunday alone. I mean, nobody really did good on Sunday. And then Ricky Fowler, 29 DraftKings points, 3.3x value, 9% in the Millie, 6% in the 25 double up. And his first day just killed him, +9. And he tried to rebound day 2, and I was rooting on him. And he was he got down to, I think, to -5 or -5 on the round for round 2. But every time he got a birdie, he would bogey the next hole and just kind of couldn't make it, missed the cut. So just a terrible cash week. Lots of guys, just as I mentioned, a minute ago, only 8 or 7 golfers finished with 80 DraftKings points or higher, and so not very many people are hitting 7x value last week. And then for my GPPs, I had Harris English, 56 DraftKings points, 7.7x value, 8% in the milli, 7% in cash. He ended up being fine for cash, not really what we wanted for GPP, but better than a lot of guys did. And then Matthew Neesmith, 13.5 DraftKings, 2.2x value, just 1% owned in million in cash. Not great. I just took a chance on him again, hoping that maybe the week at the workday was just because he played well at workday in round 1 and then bad round 2, but he was just bad at Memorial. And then this last GPP play I had was kind of disappointing for me, was Webb Simpson, 24.5 DraftKings points, 2.6x value, 14% in the milli and 11% in cash. He missed the cut. It was by far his worst tournament that he's played since the break. And it didn't really seem like it should have happened. I mean, but as we've already mentioned, the course was just playing ridiculously hard compared to workday events. So who was your GPPs?
So my first GPP play was DJ Dustin Johnson, who was just brutal. Ended up almost DFL, dead frickin' last. Finished with 16.5 DK points, not even 2 times value. Ownership was there. If he would have performed, it would have been nice. 9% in the milli maker, 4% in cash. He was just brutal, and he ended up. It was him and Webb Simpson were really similar. It seemed like once their round got away from him, they just didn't care anymore. They're like, forget it. I'll play it wherever it lands. Second GPP play was Jason Day. Great to see Jason Day do well. 81 DK points, over 10 times value, 9% in the milli maker, 6% in cash. Surprisingly low owned, considering, like Zach mentioned, it's Tuesday and we're recording. So I don't typically do a lot of looking at other people's work around the industry, and surprisingly low owned for how good a fit he was. Back tightened up, but he was a grinder and pulled through. So great to see Jason Day do well. And then the last GPP pick was Shane Lowry, ended up with 20 DK points, 2.8 times value, 4.6% in the milli maker, 2.5% in cash. Missed the cut. I thought, if we were getting U.S. Open type conditions and the course was playing tougher, someone like Lowry, someone like Casey really fits that mold, but ended up missing the cut, and not a great performance from Mr. Lowry. So that brings us to this week's tournament, the 3M Open. So we're going to the TPC Twin Cities in Blaine, Minnesota. So that's part of the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis area. It's par 71, 7,468 yards. It's fairly straightforward layout. Lots of similarities I'm finding between here and Detroit Golf Club for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. It's no surprise, being in Minnesota, there's lots of water in play. Last year, so we've only got a 1-year sample size. Last year was the first time there. So last year it played above average for guys hitting the fairway and hitting the greens in regulation. Bent grass greens run about 12 and a half on the stimp. So it's not, we're not going to see it like putting on glass like last week. Average size greens, 3.5-inch rough. Nothing really is on the course is going to keep the guys from scoring really, really low. So saw Matt Wolf go low last year, And I'm anticipating we're going to see scores in the 20s again this year. So I know it's early, but how's the weather looking so far, Zach?
For Thursday, right now, as of right now, anyways, it's looking like the best day so far. 61 degrees at the first tee, so that's going to be really nice for those guys teeing off in the morning on Thursday, and 2-mile-an-hour wind, so pretty much no wind. And then it gets up to about 70 with about 6-mile-an-hour wind by 10 o'clock, and then 82 for the high. So it's even in the afternoon, it's not gonna get warm enough to like dry out the greens and things like that. So we should see low scoring pretty much all day Thursday. And the best part is no chance of rain on Thursday. Friday, it's a little bit warmer at the first tee, 70 degrees with 8-mile-an-hour north wind. The wind picks up to about 10 miles an hour at 10 a.m. with 79 degrees. And then it gets up to about 13 to 15 miles an hour in the afternoon and warmer, 88 degrees. And then about 40% chance of storms. So Friday is going to be the main day that we need to check in the afternoon for storms. And then Saturday, 76 in the morning, 8-mile-an-hour wind. And then it pretty much just stays at 10 miles an hour for the afternoon and late morning. And 84 degrees at 10 and 92 at for the high temperature. Small chance, 20% chance of storms. And then Sunday, 76 in the morning with a 6-mile-an-hour wind, and then 83 by 10 and 90 for the high with 8-mile-an-hour wind the rest of the day, and about 30% chance of storms. So Thursday and Friday, the temperatures aren't going to be warm enough to really dry out the greens, so we should see low scoring pretty much all day. Saturday in the afternoon and Sunday in the afternoon is going to be a little bit warmer, so we could have a little bit of the greens drying out. Just a reminder again, I looked at the forecast about an hour ago on Tuesday afternoon. So stuff is going to be changing, especially with the weather, with the wind and the storms. So you need to get in our Slack chat for updates. Tomorrow I'll give an update around the afternoon, and then I'll give another one in the evening when people are making their lineups. Because there's nothing you can really do to prepare for the whole tournament, on Thursday for storms on Sunday. But for the showdown, especially, is where we can determine if the AM has an advantage or PM. So that's it for the weather. Let's get into the bets. Who you like for outright picks this week, Cody?
So for my outrights, and I'll mention off the hop this time. So I'm in Canada. I use Bet365. These numbers are going to change depending on which book you use. Also, when I bet the outrights, I also bet the each way. So I know that's something that, depending on your book, you may or may not have. I recommend it. So ended up hitting Jason Day on the each way last week. So the outright didn't pay out. He didn't win the tournament. But the each way, depending on how many spots you get. So he finished T4, so I got a full spot on the each way. So I still made some money last week. First pick for the outright is Harris English at plus 3,300. He's fourth overall in my model this week. Solid showing last week, like as Zach was talking about his results. The DK scoring didn't really reflect how well he played. So he finished 13th last week, and he was 17th prior to that at the RBC Heritage. I think the weaker field than what we've seen since the break, it'll help English, and he's with his recent form, he should be on the leaderboard come Sunday. Second is Lucas Glover at plus 3,500. So Glover's 7th overall in the model this week. He had 4 straight top 25s coming out of the break before finishing 38th last week. And of course, it was a much tougher course and a much deeper field. So I'm not going to hold that against him too much. Had success here last year. He finished 7th. And I mentioned there's bit of a correlation that I found with the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So he finished 21st there earlier this year. And the biggest thing with Glover that I see is his improved putting. That was really one of his weaknesses in his game before the break and in previous years. And he's just been solid with the putter since the return. So this could be the week where it all comes together for him. Lastly, for the outrights, I got Carlos Ortiz at plus 7,000. So he's 20th overall in the model. He was 5th here last year, and he's shown that he can score on some of the easier courses. We've seen him in the mid-teens under par. So he's I'll talk about him more later on. But Carlos Ortiz at plus 7,000 is a value that I really like. So who do you like for your outright plays this week, Zach?
First one is one you already mentioned. I'll just mention why our odds are a little bit different. Cody uses Bet365 and I use MyBookie. So sometimes the odds are going to be a little bit different. But Lucas Glover, plus 3,000. He's 8th in my model, 15th in ball striking, 7th last year and 21st at Rocket Mortgage. And then he's been playing well. Like Cody said, he's made 5 straight cuts. So that's the first step, is making the cut and then making a move on Saturday and Sunday. And he does pretty good at making the cut. My next one is Heinrich Norlander, and he is plus 5,500. Another guy that's been playing really well, made 4 straight cuts, and 2 of his last finishes have been in the top 15. With a 6th place finish last week with the conditions, was really impressive that he finished that high. 12th at Rocket Mortgage this year with a similar course setup that Cody's mentioned, and he's 17th on my model. So taking a chance on him. And then the last one is Troy Merritt at plus 8,000. 7th here last year and 8th at Rocket Mortgage this year. The model doesn't love him as well. 78th on my model. So don't necessarily like him for DFS, but other than GPP. But why not take a shot on the outright here? So who are you liking for head-to-head? It looks like you don't have any head-to-head again this week that you picked out.
Yeah, the head-to-head market on Bet365 this week was pretty limited. So I went for some bets that I like for top 20 finish. So Lucas Glover, who we talked about already, at plus 150, Henrik Norlander at plus 250, and Carlos Ortiz at plus 300. These are the ways. These bets are one of the ways that I really grow my bankroll for betting. They're not the big sexy 4 or 5 digit numbers, but all 3 of these hit and I'll be sitting pretty. So just like a couple of weeks ago, I hit a couple of my head-to-heads last week. I got Day as the top Australasian. So I'm just going to keep hopefully hitting some of these lower bets to keep my bankroll padded until we hit some more, get on the heater like we were before the break. So who do you like for your head?
First one is Tony Finau, plus 100 versus Tommy Fleetwood. And this is pretty much a pick here just because Finau's, he's been playing well, coming in 8th place at Memorial. And he actually ranks 1st on my model. And then Fleetwood, it's just too much of a question mark, in my opinion, with his first tournament coming back after the break. We've seen guys like Cantley do really well in their first tournament after the break, and then we've seen guys just look awful, needing to knock off the rust. So if you can get plus odds for a guy that should do better this week, I think it's a good one. And then the next one is Will Gordon, plus 135 versus Patrick Rogers. Gordon comes in 5th on my model. Rogers is 55th. Rogers has missed the cut in 3 of his last 5 tournaments. And then Gordon finished 3rd at Travelers. He did miss the cut at Rocket Mortgage, but I think with the time off the last couple of weeks, he should come back and perform really well like he did at Travelers. So let's get into the cash plays. Who do you like for cash?
So first cash play, mentioned him several times already, is Lucas Glover. So he's 9,400 on DraftKings, 10,600 on FanDuel, and $38 on Yahoo. Like you mentioned, 5 for 5 made cuts. He had 4 straight top 25s before last week's carnage at Memorial. Good course history, even though it's a small sample size, but he's got a good course history at the course this week, plus at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. I like Henrik Norlander, but you'll talk more about him a little bit later on. Doc Redman, I like 8,700 on DraftKings, FanDuel 9,900 and $33 on Yahoo. So he's third in the model this week. Really strong in the approach game, so that's going to keep him in the mix. He missed the cut last week, but we can't really hold that against him. It was 4 for 4 prior to that with some really good finishes, a couple of top 25s and a top 15. And then lastly, Carlos Ortiz, 7,700 on DraftKings, 9,600 on FanDuel, $38 on Yahoo. He's 20th overall in the model. What I found with Ortiz is he's not exceptional. He doesn't jump off the page in any one category, but he's solid in pretty much every category. He had success here last year with a T5, so I'll go back to Ortiz for my cash play. So who are you liking for cash this week, Zach?
Okay, before I get into that, I just want to mention, I keep looking over this way because in peripheral vision, my dogs are trying to run up a tree chasing a squirrel. So it's funny. Anyways, like you mentioned, Henrik Norlander is my first one. 8,600 on DraftKings, 9,800 on FanDuel, and $24 on Yahoo. Mentioned before, he's been playing really well and ended up getting 6th place at Memorial in those really tough conditions, which is very impressive. 17th on my model. He finished 12th at Rocket Mortgage with a similar setup, made 4 straight cuts. And as we know for cash games, that's what you want to do is make the cut. Because obviously you want that for GPP as well, but cash, you don't need that upside of, top 20, top 10. You just need to make the cut. And it comes with a discounted price. Dustin Johnson, Tony Finau, Brooks Koepka are all really expensive this week, and good reason because of the weaker field and everything. But I think it's going to be an advantage to us to get below the 10,000 range in our plays. And then Norlander's coming in about 10% projected owned. And thanks to Thomas Kelly for our ownership. But that's for GPP ownership, so it might be a little bit higher for cash. And then Lucas Glover, like you already mentioned, 8th in my model. He's 15th in ball striking, made 5 straight cuts, 7th place last year. And then solid floor for cash, because that's what you want in cash is you want the floor to be high. You don't need the ceiling to be high like GPP. And then Glover's 19% projected owned in GPP, so he's probably going to be one of the more highly owned in cash, which there's nothing wrong with that, unless you fade it and he does what he should, then you might be in trouble. And then the last one is Scott Stallings, 7,600 on DraftKings, 9,100 on FanDuel, $21 on Yahoo. Comes in 11th on my model. He's 27th in bogey avoidance, and we want to go under par as much as possible. So you're thinking, well, you want that for every tournament. Yes. But in this tournament, with the scores probably going to be minus 20 or better, for sure going to be better than minus 15, you don't want to be going the wrong way. You want to be either par or birdie or better every time. And so being able to avoid bogeys is a huge key. And then 5 straight made cuts for him. 6th place at Travelers. Made the cut here last year and the last 2 times at Rocket Mortgage as well. And he comes in about 10% projected ownership. So who are you liking for GPPs, Cody?
So the first one, and I was debating whether he'd be a cash play or not. But first one I like for GPPs is Matthew Wolff. So he comes in at 9,700 on DK, 10,900 on FanDuel, and $43 on Yahoo. So he's coming in projected around 17.5% ownership, which is high, but his upside is arguably the same as a DJ or a Koepka or a Finau. Top 25 finish last week, which was really impressive. He just was solid and was grinding it out. And that was coming off a missed cut at the workday. Earlier had a second place finish at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Only concern that I see is he's the defending champ. He's a young guy. Sometimes when you go back to, and especially it was his first and only win. Sometimes there's some extra pressure. There's some extra eyes on you. So that's my only concern is we don't really know him being a young guy, how he's going to handle that. So that's kind of why he's more of a GPP play for me than cash. Second one is Sam Burns. So he's 8,500 on DraftKings, 10,000 even on FanDuel, and the nuts low on Yahoo, $20. So he's like an auto play on Yahoo this week. 3 straight made cuts, 7th place last year. He's more of a GPP play for me this week because he's not high up on my model because I'm putting more of an emphasis on approach and ball striking. The way he gets it done is he's going to gain strokes off the tee and he's going to gain strokes with his putter. So of course there's various ways where you can get from point A to point B, but Burns not ranking terribly high in my model is the reason why he's more of a GPP play for me this week. And then lastly, Norwegian OSU guy who is not Victor Hovland. I'm going with Christopher Ventura. I had the luxury of looking at our ownership projections. So there was a few guys that I was thinking about adding here, but Christopher Ventura, he was 21st at the Rocket Mortgage. He's on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's got a pair of top 10s on the Corn Ferry Tour since the break. And he's coming in projected at around 2% ownership. So there's Ventura, Wyndham Clark. There's some other guys in that area where I think they might go overlooked. So around 2% ownership with somebody who's trending upwards like Ventura, I really like. And plus I didn't notice any OSU guys on Zach's picks, so I thought I had to get some in there. We're contractually obligated to mention OSU guys for every podcast. Who are you? Who are you liking for your GPP picks?
First one is I already mentioned him again earlier with the outrights, but Troy Merritt, 7,500 on DraftKings, 9,100 on FanDuel, 27 on Yahoo, 7th here. Last year, 8th at the Rocket Mortgage this year, and 4 straight made cuts until last week, which I'm not going to hold against him because it was tough last week. 78th in my model, but he does come in at 48th in par 4 birdie or better, and then 7% projected ownership. The next one is Seamus Power, 6,500 on DraftKings, 7,600 on FanDuel, $20 on Yahoo. So again, like one of Cody's there, minimum price on Yahoo. But he comes in at 12th on my model, 7th in birdies or better percentage, 2nd in par 3 birdie or better, and he finished 12th at Rocket Mortgage. And then the best thing is 3% projected ownership for a guy that's 6,500. That can let you, if you want to play Dustin Johnson or somebody up there, playing someone like Seamus gets you that ability. And then the last one is Will Gordon. I kind of debated him for cash or GPP. 7,700 on DraftKings, 9,500 on FanDuel, $29 on Yahoo. 8th in green and regulation, 15th in birdie or better percentage, 5th on my model, 3rd at Travelers. He missed the cut at Rocket Mortgage, but taking a couple of weeks off and then coming back with the easier course should help see results similar to Travelers, I think. And then 15% projected ownership, so it's a little bit higher just because everyone's still familiar with his finish at Travelers, but nothing wrong with that necessarily. Before we end this, I want to just double check, see if they've posted tiers. I keep checking, and nope, still too early to draft. So make sure you guys are getting in our Slack, liking this video, subscribing to the video. The Slack will get you access to everything. We're doing more than just PGA. We're going to have MLB when it starts up this week, and we're going to have NHL when it starts in August, and we're going to have NBA as well. Currently still having NASCAR, still have MMA stuff. So we cover everything. And then if you guys are doing like season longs and you want advice on drafts or something like that, we have that as well. But stay tuned for later this week. We might have a MLB podcast for you a couple of times, maybe this week. Anything else I left out, Cody?
No, I think you got it. Like this video, subscribe so you'll get notified when we're putting more stuff up. Just to reiterate, get in the Slack chat. That's where the real value is. You can't beat the price right now anyway, since we're absolutely free. Thomas Kelly just kills it on the daily with his projections. We've got NFL stuff that's coming up. Zach and I and Francois Fortier are going to be taking care of MLB. So really, we've got a ton of resources for you. We've got, some one-on-one interaction with any of our contributors in Slack. So that's I think that's the real takeaway.
All right. Thank you guys again for joining us. Thank you, Cody, and good luck this week.